And welcome to P Guru's channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer. We are going to have Sri Shekhar ji weighing in on a few things that is happening in and around the country, Manipur, Karnataka, as well as Maharashtra NCP politics. We titled it funnily as a Game of Clowns, but you may disagree with us. But let us see what Shekhar ji has to say about it. Let's welcome Shekhar ji. Shekhar ji, namaskar and welcome to P Guru's channel.
Namaskar. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Shekharji, first off, Manipur, Article 355 has been imposed, at least they have sent a letter intimation to Manipur to get your act together or we are going to dismiss the government. This is just the recently elected government. And how did the government not see this thing coming, sir?
Sir, I don't think any formal directive has been issued under 355. What has happened is Center has sent a retired CRPF official as a security advisor, in the sense meaning that they are directly taking charge, but without any formal thing. Because invoking the Article 355 would mean that there is a hostile government there and that the center has to intervene. That's not the
I
case
see.
because it's a BJP government there and they had just won the elections only last year. And but this has been brewing for some time, sir. And at the heart of this problem is, Manipur is like a football stadium, sir. Particularly the Imphal Valley is the playing ground, and the galleries are the hills. And there are very funny, rather I wouldn't say funny, rather certain things very tragic to Manipur, but also shows how demography and geography have played with the lives of the Manipuris, average Manipuris. Because, see, the 90% of Manipur is in the hills. It's the 10% which is the Imphal Valley. But in terms of population, the Imphal Valley has more people than the hills, because and the hills consists of about 35%, 35 different tribes. And the other the irony of Manipur is, the Manipur Assembly has 60 seats, of which 40 seats come from Imphal Valley, which has only 10% of the land mass. And rest 20% seats comes from the hills. So the hills are dominated by the tribes, and the valley is dominated by the community called the Métis. So this has been a historic, ever since 1947 onwards. You had this problem between the Métis and the tribes, and this has led to several. You had extremist movement among the Métis also for reclaiming the domination of the Métis they had when there was a king in Manipur. But what has happened is, with the BJP's inroad into the northeast and way it successfully won a second term, BJP government there has been trying to crack down on 3 4 things. One is the drug cartel or the drug syndicates that have been operating on the border with Myanmar, Burma. The second thing is they were also been trying to act on eviction in forest lands. And along with that, what has happened is there has been a demand among Métis that their land, since I just mentioned Imphal Valley has only 10% of the land mass of the state, there has been a fear of insecurity among Métis that their lands are being purchased by outsiders. Outsiders in the sense people who have come from, say, the bordering Myanmar and other places, and that there was a fear of they being swamped by outsiders, meaning both the tribals dominating in the hills as well as other. So they were always a clamor for some kind of a constitutional safeguard that it is not easy to buy land in Imphal Valley, as it just as you can't buy land easily in the hills, because the hills are protected, because all the tribal communities come under the scheduled tribe category. And since those are reserved areas, you cannot buy land easily. But the valley was seeing, because valley has also seen economic boom, and the land prices have been escalating. So therefore, this at the heart of this problem is this. And of course, even today, the Métis maintain that their demand or clamor for a scheduled caste, scheduled tribe status is nothing to do with jobs. Now, on March 27, Manipur High Court passed an order, sir. And that order was directing the state government to write to the center to declare Meiteis as part of the scheduled tribe category. And that is the one which immediately, all that built up tension between tribes and the Meiteis started building up. And finally, you had on 28th April, there was a huge rally called by this All Tribal Students Union of Manipur, opposing any ST status to Meiteis, saying that they dominate bureaucracy, they dominate in politics. There are more number of seats from Imphal Valley than from the hills, and that particular thing, we saw that rally resulted in violence in the sense a particular meeting that was to be addressed by the Chief Minister, Virendra Kumar Singh, was burned down. And subsequently, we saw on May 3rd, there was reactions from the other side, and the Meitei dominated Bishnupur and Churachandpur, which is dominated by Kukis, because basically the tribes consist. The dominant tribes are the Nagas, Kukis, and of course there are Muslims who are also called Pangals, and they are spread both. I mean, more in the valley than in the hills. Now, it was something that was waiting to happen, I would say, because in the last assembly elections, recognition for Meitei's culture, recognition for Meitei identity, protection for Meiteis was one of the driving poll themes there. And BJP came to power for a second time with a mandate which was backed by these demands. Now, for a long time, Kukis have been having problems with Meiteis, but it was not to the extent that it would just boil over and come to this place. And unfortunately, there were raids by Kuki gangs into Meitei areas in the border districts. Similarly, in Imphal Valley, the Meitei gangs targeted Kukis. And incidentally, in terms of religious category, the Meiteis are basically originally animists, but they adopted Hinduism during the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Bhakti movement. And Kukis are largely Christians. Kukis and Nagas are Christians. So, the result, we have seen some of the churches being burned down in the hill areas. And though it is not exactly a religious clash, rather more to do with this, Meitei, it's rather a tribal, non-tribal issue. So I think this has really come to head, and it has caught Chief Minister, unguarded moment. And of course, they say that there's a lot to do with the drug cartels are behind this violence. They were opposed to the eviction and things like that. Anyway, the center finally, had to act, had to call in the army after a long time. Army has been called outside Jammu Kashmir to contain an internal disturbance. See, after all, there is an Armed Forces Special Powers Act in operation in the northeast. Large parts of Manipur was, the APSA, that is the Armed Forces Special Powers Act, was lifted from Manipur because of the improvement in containing insurgency. But today,
we seem to have momentarily lost power, and
yeah,
but
please see
we
if
can
I
hear you.
can,
Sir. Go ahead. We can hear you. It looks very interesting.
yeah.
Oh, great.
So, that is what has happened, and it has become extremely difficult for the average people, to both Kukis and Meiteis. Of course, with a lot of more than 10,000 troops on the ground, things are gradually coming back to normal. But it's unfortunate that after so many years, these identities, the tribal identity and the non-tribal identity, are so strong. Because I have heard Meitei leaders repeatedly saying it's not about jobs. They are not asking for, trying to eat into the pie, the scheduled tribe, pie in terms of jobs. It's more for protection of their lands. So this would require more than what the Chief Minister Birendra Singh can handle. And definitely, of course, Manipur has only 2 Lok Sabha seats. And this is also related to, the ongoing peace process in Nagaland. After all, Nagaland had insurgent groups like the NSCN, National Socialist Council of Nagaland, which used to one time have a slogan, Nagaland for Christ. And those groups finally, NSCN got into negotiations. Of course, there's yet to achieve a breakthrough, but definitely in the Nagaland election also we saw they have accepted to work within the framework of India, United India. And that time also the fear was that, because one of the demands of the NSCN was to part away with areas which are Naga dominated in Manipur districts to be merged with a greater Nagaland. That was not agreed to. And you would recall, sir, R.N. Ravi, who is present Tamil Nadu governor, he was Nagaland governor. He was also heading negotiations, and talks broke down, and a lot of these Naga leaders were against R.N. Ravi. So there is this is something, it's a wake up call, of course, coming at a time when Karnataka elections are held. The Congress, tried to say, look, these people are campaigning in Karnataka when Manipur is burning. Of course, Amit Shah had to cancel his program for a day. He was in Delhi reviewing the situation, where it was decided to pump in as many soldiers on the ground to bring sense of control. Sir, but worrying some in this whole episode has been looting of armories. Some of these gangs looted armories, took away the weapons and ammunition. So, current drive by the army and the central forces is to recover arms. And I believe today some 84 pieces of arms have been recovered. So, it's a quite a nightmare for people there. Of course, with curfew and with army handling, and more than 10,000 people have taken shelter in the army camps. So that's the scenario. But for an India which is, on a march to, Vishal Bharat, and that old issues, old problems, suddenly, they rise like a volcano and drown people in great sorrow.
Yes, indeed, and we'll wait and see how things develop from here. I don't know why somebody has to oppose somebody else getting scheduled tribe status. Maybe the government can come up with something like what they have in place in Himachal Pradesh. However, I think Himachal Pradesh, all the citizens of or all the residents of Himachal Pradesh can own land in Himachal Pradesh. Here, you have within the state itself some sort of a divergence in opinion, whether the Meiteis are objecting to the hill people coming and buying land or outsiders buying land. Again, this outsider is getting a little blurred. Are Rohingya still coming into Manipur also?
So they are also among the people who the Meiteis say are, coming and occupying forest lands. And so the disturbance in Myanmar, after the crackdown in Myanmar, lot of cookies, Myanmari cookies, have also shifted to Manipur. And the Meiteis leaders say that these cookies are, some of them have resources, and they are buying up land in these areas with the help of cookies, because the cookie identity is stronger, whether you are a Manipuri cookie or a Myanmari cookie tribal. That the bonding is stronger. So it's all fed on rumors and fears, which has resulted in this kind of a tinderbox. And that's a problem. Yes, I think the answer could be, as you said, Shreyarji, a land reformation act may be necessary, where the local lands are also protected, particularly in Imphal Valley, which is only 10% of the geographical area. So there is a tremendous pressure on land pressure. The similar thing we have seen in Assam. Even in Assam, the fact that the agitation against foreigners was largely because of encroachments and unending, people coming from Bangladesh and settling down on forest lands and later claiming ownership. So we have seen it happening in Assam. And here in Manipur is a very small state. It's rather a landlocked state. So, and Manipur has seen a lot of development, sir, in terms of, because Manipur today has some of the excellent sports facilities, because given Manipuri's love for football and for boxing and for other sport activities, the center has set up a state of the art training facility for hockey, for athletics. There are a lot of, so you have a lot of people going to Manipur. So like the earlier people used to go to Ludhiana for training and using facilities. So Manipur has become a very important state in terms of, it's not, I mean, it's no longer that backwardness is so much, but competing rivalries, competing, I would say, some kind of old wounds which still remain unhealed have resulted in this situation.
Well, one challenge about making land only for locals means that new development will not happen. For example, somebody wants to come and make a car manufacturing plant or a two-wheeler manufacturing, because I'm hearing that a lot of Yamaha two-wheelers get smuggled across the border to Myanmar because they are in great demand there. So people will just ride their motorcycles to the border, make a sauda, make a deal, and then come back. And this is like an ongoing process. So these things will always be there, like water flowing from a higher level to a lower level. People will find a way to smuggle things out. See, the bigger problem is, let's say Hero Honda decides to put up a manufacturing plant in Manipur just to try and get you make use of this surge in production. What happens then is that they will need to acquire land. These are all big factories. They'll need to have guaranteed power, water, whatever it is. I'm just talking about a general industry that can put down its roots there. For such things, then this land ownership thing can come into a problem. So there is a bit of a judicious usage of law also here. Also, unless such huge things come, because one big factory comes, it will create so many new jobs, ancillary units around it. You will need lathe machine companies, fitting companies, painting, this, that, all sorts of stuff will come after that. That is how the local populace who is studying today. The real fact is, today Manipuris tend to navigate to the cities, whether it is Bengaluru. As far as Bengaluru, it takes them 2-3 days sometimes to just go back. Bengaluru or Delhi, or I don't see them much in Mumbai. I've definitely seen them in Bengaluru and Kolkata. Probably, I'm sure there is also a fair share. So this is all happening because the educated don't have opportunity. So there is a balance that need to be drawn. So let's wait and see how this plays out, sir. If you
Sir,
have something to add, please feel
yeah,
free. Yeah.
sir, in my first visit to Manipur was in 1984, where I went to cover Manipur assembly elections. At that time, and Manipur, the society is largely, matriarchal society where women handle the day-to-day commerce, run markets, and things like that. And at that time, Manipur was just coming out of the grip of insurgency by Meitei militants who wanted a separate, Manipur. And that is how the Armed Forces Special Act was brought there, and there was a crackdown on these Meitei groups. And assembly election was held then Congress was the dominating political force there. Of course, Congress politicians would move around in fully in armored vehicles then, because fearing attacks. And in the hills you had the problem of the NSCN. And that was how it was. Those days the security was a very big issue. And Imphal city was particularly a bicycle city. But today, so many things have happened. And one of the big industries, sir, Northeast itself has been encouraging, all the Northeastern states. They have been encouraging IT industry. They have been encouraging food processing industry, because there's a lot of local produce, oranges, pineapple, which can be processed. So a lot of local fruits, that has been a big demand. And of course, Manipur and all these Northeast states have huge potential in terms of hydel generation. And the other thing which has been a driving thing is the tourism, because with Kashmir being locked up for several years, and it is just that the Jammu Kashmir is opening, and people are now. I hear there is a huge traffic going to Gulbarg and things other places. It has been a good year for tourists in Jammu and Kashmir. Otherwise, people started rediscovering Northeast as a tourist centers. Some places that were never explored. So tourism has been a big industry that has been picking up in Manipur, like in Sikkim and other states. Now, a violence like this puts the clock back, and it affects all communities, whether it is Meiteis or Kukis or Nagas.
Every election, state election, it has been customary for the prime minister to go a few days before that, and it has been seen that he can swing up to 4 to 5% vote. In this case, where the difference in vote percentage between BJP and INC is in a fraction of a percentage, is the Moji magic happening in Karnataka, sir? How do you see it?
Well said. There are crowds coming to wherever Modi has gone, and he has been doing long road shows covering a number of constituencies. and the groundwork I mean the ground feed I get is that uh, it may not help in BJP, making big gain, but definitely Congress losing a lot of advantages. So therefore, the probability of a hung house is now increasing, and that's the feedback I get, because this campaign, is definitely hurting Congress, whether it is Bajrang Dal or whether it is the issue of appeasing Islamist elements. These are the issues that has begun to hurt Congress. That's why we have seen in the last couple of days, Congress leaders trying to clarify that, and even DK Shivkumar announcing that the Congress government, I mean, if the Congress comes to power, they will develop a number of Hanuman temples. Suddenly, the Hanuman has jumped onto the Congress manifesto, and you can see. But still, will it give that edge? Can BJP cross? Can it emerge as the single largest party? Still, the opinion is rather people are keeping fingers crossed. But interestingly, sir, in the old Mysuru areas, which has got 66 assembly seats, Janata Dal secular is, I believe, is pushing very hard, and people are expecting that one should not be surprised if Janata Dal Secular manages to win 30 to 35 seats, in which case the hung house probability increases manyfold, and ultimately it could be a JDS led government supported by one of the national parties, either Congress or BJP. But in the north and other places, traditional BJP areas, definitely it has helped the BJP to be more sure of its numbers, because Prime Minister has his own charisma in Karnataka, and particularly the first time voters, as we discussed in our last session, have been responding very enthusiastically. But in terms of overall picture that we get, many of our viewers tend to think that I am somehow trying to show that rather my sympathies are with the Congress, because I have been reading the responses. It's not so, but the reality is such that BJP has been facing a lot of issues in terms of the candidate selection, in terms of the Lingayat leadership, in terms of the legacy of Yediyurappa, then the prosperity of Bombay. All these things have weighed heavily upon, and people do not think that whether Amit Shah's campaign or JP Nadda's campaign has given much strength, but definitely it has enthused the workers. But it is the Prime Minister's campaign which is actually hurting the Congress more, rather than one can say giving a very big boost to the BJP, because that kind of boost could have been there if certain mistakes had been avoided earlier. Shri Iyerji.
Sir, I still am trying to grapple with what BJP did to ask Yediyurappa to step down. There wasn't any specific scandal. There weren't any charges except saying that he is corrupt. Come on now, every MLA, it doesn't matter which party he belongs to, he or she belongs to in Karnataka, he's a real estate person. They all have real estate. They all have dealings. They will just say if Congress comes to power, then they'll try to negotiate deals for themselves better than the other side, and vice versa. I've seen this thing for far too long. So there is no surprise about that. But so why did they even remove him? He was a strong leader. Why would they not have? Why didn't they allow him to contest one more time and go out on a high, sir? Any idea?
Sir, they have been wanting to get hold of what they thought was, the Yediyurappa chap. I mean, the Yediyurappa stamp on the BJP. And they thought that they have to groom a new leadership. They have to move away from that. And that some people attribute it to, they say that there is so much of problems between the BJP organizational in charge, Mr. B.H. Santosh, who hails from Karnataka, but who is the RSS appointee in the BJP to handle BJP's organizational matters, and Yediyurappa. But I don't think it is so much of a personal issue. But many BJP leaders who are unhappy with the candidate selections feel that somehow, Santosh had a big hand in creating a situation. But definitely, sir, BJP had two objectives. One, to move away from the Yediyurappa legacy because of so many complaints of corruption, and they feared that with Yediyurappa still at the helm, there could be more damage. The second was that they also wanted to move away from the thing that BJP is a Lingayat party. And but then they realized that it was not so easy. So they had to accept Bommai, who was actually chosen by Yediyurappa to succeed him. Bombay has not been a bad chief minister, but the problem is he could not be effective in the situation where he was ruling over, legislators who had, cross loyalties, who had come over from Congress, people who had shifted sides, and there was no way he could rein in these complaints that were coming in about corruption. Because the biggest complaint I hear from people who have been traditional BJP voters is that their pleas, their complaints were dismissed. They try to tell the local BJP, "Look, things are getting bad," and also the civic quality, the civic life in Bengaluru, that also has hurt the image of BJP. Well, the Prime Minister's campaign may help pepper over these things to some extent, but then a pothole is a pothole. You can't cover it up easily, though they tried to do it last time. I mean, I'm saying it both figuratively and literally. So these are the issues. So the whole idea is, did BJP high command or the leadership, could they have done much better? Because now I hear also people saying maybe Yediyurappa should have continued, because Yediyurappa also has been, of course, now he is with full gusto campaigning. His son is also contesting. But in between, he did lose his spirit. The fact that, the way he was asked to step down. So perhaps that the smooth over or the transition could have waited till the elections. But then they also decided, if at all they have to bring a generational change, they have to do it this election. But in doing so, the new faces that have come, people have issues with those new faces. Not that they were all, workers who had, worked hard or they had proved their point. In terms of bringing in new faces, also there are complaints that some of the people who have worked for a long time were ignored. Sir, this happens in any normal election. Some people will get ticket, some people won't get ticket. That is there. But these issues are coming to fore. Of course, Congress is also having similar problems. But the very fact that the people's mood, people's anger towards the incumbent legislators has actually helped Congress in some ways and has posed a challenge to the BJP.
Well, let's take a quick look at what is happening in Maharashtra. Sir, one time is news, two times it's coincidence. Now this has become a game of clowns. Every time there is even a slight sign of a revolt, there is Mr. Sharad Pawar saying that I want to step down. And then all hell breaks loose, and then he is persuaded to come back and become the president again. Um, Ajit Pawar needs to show more back spine, because last time he was sworn in as deputy chief minister, but he could not sway even what I think 2/3 was needed, right? He couldn't get that number, so he had to go with tail tucked between his legs back to his uncle. But the thing has been simmering for a long time. He still manages to become deputy chief minister under the Maharashtra Vikas Aghadi. One interesting thing that I still remember, sir, Mr. Uddhav Thackeray never went to Mantralaya. There were times when he was not well, but one could see Mr. Sharad Pawar sitting in what appeared to be Mantralaya and actually talking with all the IAS officers. This man had no power. He was not a minister. You think people don't understand the implications of something like that, sir? And what exactly goes on in Maharashtra that they feel like there is everything has to revolve around Mr. Sharad Pawar?
Well, sir, the collapse of the Mahavikas Aghadi, has put the parties that were part of that coalition in great distress and in crisis. Whether it is Shiv Sena, which split, or it is NCP, which is seeing rather a very open battle between the uncle and the nephew, or it is even the Congress. Even the Congress is having a lot of problems because they do not know who is the foe, who is the friend. And the for all practical purposes, this Vikas Aghadi is this Aghadi is no longer a thriving coalition or a living coalition, I would say, because we'll have to see when the elections come what will happen. Of course, they had a massive show of strength last Monday in Mumbai, where there was a huge rally. Well, rallies are possible, but the fact that Sharad Pawar had to adopt a measure like this, where he had announced resignation to contain a rebellion by his nephew, it only shows that things cannot settle down in the NCP. Because my friends and my journalistic friends, my media analysts in Maharashtra are reading it as Supriya up, Supriya Sule up, Ajit Pawar down, and Sharad Pawar is back to be boss in NCP. But boss of what? Because the fact that he took such a decision, he announced it using a occasion where he released his revised biography, in which he criticized Uddhav Thackeray for failing to be an effective chief minister of the Agadi. Now, what was the purpose? I think that the big question is now, what has Pawar achieved? If Pawar's objective was only to show Ajit Pawar that he doesn't command the rank and file, or if Sharad Pawar's objective was only to protect the interest of Supriya Sule, and also whether he was swayed to continue by people like Rahul Gandhi and M.K. Stalin and Sitaram Yechuri. So because these are being reasons being cited. Pawar, as Imphal mentioned in his interaction with the journalists today, look, I was told by national leaders that this will hurt the cause for opposition unity at this time. But definitely, sir, yesterday evening, that is, I'm talking of Friday evening, when Pawar announced he's taking back his resignation, one notable absentee was Ajit Pawar. He was not present there. Of course, Pawar tried to say, well, he was present in the morning meeting of that committee that he had set up, which I had recommended his continuation, which I had wanted him to continue. Now, definitely thinks this is not the last word. And of course, at the press conference, I could see Supriya Sule smiling more than any other leaders. And there is a chemistry problem, because Ajit Pawar is seen as a very effective, strong leader. Because even as a deputy chief minister, he was seen as more effective than definitely than Uddhav Thackeray. And he was seen as person, issuing directions, taking quick decisions. He was seen like that. Now, I think the next part of this drama will unfold when you hear, most probably in July, when the Supreme Court reopens and gives its verdict on the petition challenging this the split in the Shiv Sena, when these people led by Eknath Shinde left. So what is that verdict? If the verdict were to go against say, Eknath Shinde faction, then probably the government would come in crisis. Again, the question would arise, what will Ajit Pawar do? But I still believe Ajit Pawar has more loyalty among the legislators who will have to wait till November of 2024 for the next elections, and they are also worried about what could be the implications in the Brahan Mumbai elections, the BMC elections. So, which has been getting postponed because somehow the parties there was a question of giving OBC reservation and revision and things like that. So what we are seeing here is a self-created crisis, which Pawar acolytes are calling it a great game, when Pawar has again established his authority. But it is a typical Maharashtra jalebi, sir. You jalebi, goal, keep on doing. Because generally in Uttar Pradesh, they say, aap jalebi mat banao. Matlab, come clear and come straight. But I see a Maharashtra version of jalebi.
In Maharashtra, they'll also have Jalebi Bhai. So that's a song, by the way. Nothing, no offense to any person. So I think we are done with our topics. Let's take some questions now. Mangat Ranga wants to know, Namaskaram, is there a possibility of Soros's involvement in Manipur trouble?
Well, sir, I do not see, any evidence of such involvement. But then the fact that these agitations are spearheaded by organizations with church affiliations, largely to protect the Kuki tribal interest or Naga tribal interest, of course, that could be very far-fetched. It's a very localized problem. I mean, it's a very localized problem, and therefore, but sir, there was a time when China had there used to be people who used to go from Manipur to Lhasa, Tibet, get trained. And some of these, there was a extremist group called the People's Liberation Front of Manipur. It was called by the local Manipuri language Prepak. And it had leaders like one Birendra Bishweshwar, who had epithet to his name, Lhasa returned. So they should say Lhasa returned. I mean, going there, coming back. And of course, Chinese they have been keeping a vigil in the northeast, and earlier we have heard Ulfa, but mostly these groups have been going to Burma. Of course, India and Burma have been engaging in joint operation to flush out these extremists. So in terms of insurgency and handling extremists, there has been excellent cooperation from Myanmar. But in terms of tribal issues, sir, there is a feeling like like Mizos are felt, when Myanmar is crisis happened in Myanmar, people of the same, Mizo community and other tribal groups which have affinity with the Mizo tribes, when they wanted to come in, while center was opposed to allowing influx of people, Mizo state government wrote to the center saying, please allow them. There is a lot of, what you call cross-border wedding alliances, family relationship. So these areas which are bordering Myanmar do have a strong linkages. So I do not see a foreign element at this moment, but definitely local issues have been allowed to ferment for too long. And there are genuine fears. I mean, the fears of both the Meiteis and the tribals, which need to be addressed with a more sagacious leadership. And I'm not sure whether at the moment BJP is able to provide that leadership in Manipur in Chief Minister Birendra Singh.
Gaurav Chaudhary wants to know, Kumarswamy is a lucky man that he focused only on old Mysuru and win 30-35 seats. Become kingmaker every time except 2013. What do you think?
Well, so 2013 case was because Yediyurappa had broken away from BJP and he took away about 9 to 10% vote. That saw the Congress numbers going up and Congress having enough majority on its own. That's how Siddaramaia's first term began as chief minister. But today, Yediyurappa is back, so the 9-10% vote is still with BJP. So in battles where JDS is directly against Congress, I think where JDS, the victory would depend on who has got the ticket and who is the candidate. But in other areas, generally in terms of the fact that, the JDS represents those sections of the community, it represents that who have felt, disempowered for a long time because of BJP rule under Yediyurappa and a more Lingayat domination. So there is definitely an affinity for the JDS, which has been harping on the Ukaliga sentiments. So, of course, this is stated very subtly, it is not stated openly, but that is why we are seeing a scenario where JDS could win anywhere between 25 to 35 seats. And their game is they would also look at what is the position of the respective parties. If say Congress or the BJP to have 100 plus seats, then what would happen? Would they still agree to a JDS proposal? So we are going to see two things, sir. Till May 13th, and I mean the 13th result is going to throw up a scenario. Then from 14th onwards, you will see, things going
The
for
real
a kill.
elections.
The
The
real
real
elections in
elections.
terms, both sides, I believe, Congress as well as BJP would leave, to use a old term, no stone unturned to see that the government is formed. But the advantage for the BJP is the governor and the center will have to, will have to be there, and they are not going to easily entertain a Congress claim unless they are able to show sufficient numbers on their side.
We'll see, won't we? Raghunandan wants to know, what is the religion of tribes in Hill and Valley? Because if they are Christian, then it's church that is fanning this violence.
Well, traditionally, sir, the American Baptist Mission went into these hills long ago, right in the, they went in 19th century. In fact, when I went to places like Ukrul in Manipur, I saw American Baptist Mission had built a church in some 1800 something. So at a time when nobody went into these areas, the church, missionaries went there, set up hospitals and things like that. So there is a old linkage is there. And animism and Christianity is to, exist side by side. Just as in the valley, you have the Vaishnavism as well as the old animistic religion of Meiteis also used to, remain side by side. But of late, but still, it is not a religious divide in the sense we see it. Of course, churches have been targeted in this violence. I believe more than 2 dozen churches have been burned down in and around Imphal and also in places like Bishnupur. So it's very unfortunate, scenario there. But I don't think it is still about the religious identity as much as about the ethnic identity, which is playing a bigger part in this.
Partha wants to know, why are prices for certain vehicles seeing a hike? Is there a new scheme like FAME around the corner?
Well, I think this is the season whenever the sales slump, the auto manufacturers, resort to this trick of, hiking, the prices, and then later offering huge discounts. This is possible. And of course, in Delhi, in cities like Delhi, the transport department has been cracking down on old vehicles, because as per the Supreme Court order, vehicles more than 15-year-old cannot ply. Now, what the department is doing, they have been going after these cars which are parked even outside people's home, and if they are 15-year-old, they're taking them away and forcing the owners to, take compensation and dispose of their vehicle as a scrap. This has been going as a way to fight pollution. Of course, people are resenting it, saying, when my vehicle is in running condition, why this 15-year bar? But Supreme Court did not, mince words in saying that this has to be implemented. 15-year-old vehicles should not be allowed to ply, particularly diesel ones. So there is a crackdown going on, and I think the prices hike. I'm not exactly sure whether it is due to the rise of input cost, or it is usually that sales gimmick when this is the time they announce hikes, and by the time Navratri comes, that's when the peak automobile buying season starts in India, particularly in the North India. Then they start offering discounts, and that discount goes up to Diwali, sir. So you have a price hike, then a discount is offered. So the prevailing prices and the prices that you get, you may not see a big difference if you take into account the discounts.
Next question, please. Chaitanya Takle. Can India think of banking on the lithium reserves in J&K, tightening its security?
Well, lithium, wherever they are discovered, wherever there is a potential for such reserves, they are under examination, and definitely an improvement in situation in Jammu Kashmir, which I expect very soon. Elections may be called in the state. In the union territories, and eventually after the election, the state would be restored to them. So the next thing to look forward is the elections in Jammu and Kashmir, which could happen before the onset of winter. So I am seeing a window of something like September, as soon as your Amarnath Yatra gets over. That's the time, because the already delimitation has been done. There is a revision of electoral rolls going on. So the next big thing to happen in Jammu Kashmir would be the elections, and that is something will be sought to be foiled by our neighbors and their agents in the valley. Of course, if election were to take place, the Article 370 the removal of Article 370 has now led to a very logical, conclusive stage, I would say.
Bharani Chandar wants to know, sir, what do you think is the repercussion if BJP loses Karnataka? BJP needs to learn a lesson for some of the flip-flops and governance mistakes, but BJP losing Karnataka is lost for everyone. Your views?
Well, Bharani sir, in terms of optics, it would be definitely a very big setback, because with Prime Minister having undertaken such a last-minute campaign, it would definitely dent, the party's mood and spirit. But then politicians are politicians, parties are parties. We have seen it happening in 2018. The BJP emerged as single largest party, but the other two, JDS and Congress, came together. And in the Lok Sabha elections, where the issues will be different, where that's what we have seen in assembly elections and Lok Sabha elections. Karnataka voters have tend to distinguish between who should be, lead the government in state, and they have preferred change, because and when it came to Lok Sabha, the vote was still for Prime Minister Modi. So BJP could recover, but in terms of optics, it could affect a lot of things, and also how BJP is perceived, ahead of other four crucial elections: Telangana, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, and Rajasthan.
Magnet Ranga wants to know, Namaskaram sir, JDS has gone out of focus of MSM. MSM focuses only on BJP and Congress. What happened?
Well, sir, national media coverage may not be taking into account of the JDS thrust, particularly in the old Mysuru areas. But in terms of local coverage, local media has been, observing that Kumarswamy's meetings, Devagowda meetings have drawn crowds, particularly in the traditional areas. That is why the reading is, look, JDS has put up candidates all over Karnataka. People who did not get ticket here or there, either in BJP or BS, Congress have, taken JDS ticket. But in old Mysore areas, I believe the traditional loyalty for the Gowda family, the traditional Vocaliga fracture, all these things could help this time particularly. Though BJP has also made a lot of inroads in the Mandya belt particularly. We have seen Prime Minister holding a very good rally there, where Sumalata was also present, the wife of late actor Amaresh. He is also a Vokalinga. He was one of the tall Vokalinga faces, and so how it is going to play, because traditionally JDS battles have been with the Congress, the Vokalinga belt.
Sir, I think you meant actor Ambarish.
Ambarish, yeah, I'm sorry.
Next one, Marudachalam Venkatachalam wants to know, sir, is it necessary to have separate protection group to safeguard Northeast from insurgency and drug cartel?
So I do not think you need separate protection group, but what you need is definitely, a strong will and crack down on, this is a good time to clean up Manipur, I would say, because having come out of insurgency, if there are groups which can still loot armories, which can, use those weapons against other civilians, it speaks volumes on the kind of policing that has been going on there, because the fact that the center had to intervene and send a former head of the Central Reserve Police Force as a security advisor, that goes to show that there is a problem, because the current DGP is a cookie. And the question that is being asked, whether the Manipuri police, which has a mix of both the tribes and Meiteis, or probably the number of Meiteis in Manipur police may be both, whether there are cases of insubordination, whether they are taking proper instructions, these questions have come. So the fact that we get to hear say about more than 50 people could have lost their lives in these violence, does say that the situation has reached a point where we feel that probably there was something lacking in governance, not just in terms of police administration, but also in terms of these issues which have been festering, whether it is a question of encroachment of forest lands, whether it is a question of drug cartel, because there was a drive against cartels was just started recently. And Manipur has had a long drug problem, sir. Many Manipuri youths have fallen victim to these drugs, which used to come easily across the border, mostly from Myanmar. So therefore, from Thailand to Myanmar to then into Mizoram. So these are very, very worrisome aspects, and which Manipuri society has been trying to overcome. That is the reason why sport was encouraged in a very big way, with creation of more facility, so that more and more Manipuri youth, take to sports and shun drugs. That was a big campaign, but it's a challenge in terms of governance. And at a time when we hear, there are 25 Lok Sabha seats from the Northeast, including 14 from Assam. BJP has been always getting a good share of those seats. 2014 as well as 2019 has been focusing. So it does devolve upon the BJP to BJP leadership particularly, and the Modi government in particular, to look at this problem and look at other issues which have remained pending for too long, because Northeast cannot be allowed to go back. The clock cannot be turned back there. That will be very unfortunate.
Next question, Racing Highlights wants to know, no one discusses Telangana politics. Do you think it is one of the silent state in terms of politics, violence in India? Please pick this question.
Well, I think KCR had peaked too early, and now he has gone silent, because he is also watching the Karnataka results. And after that, the next focus would be Telangana, and we would be discussing Telangana, I think, post probably after the Karnataka elections, because immediately the focus will shift to that state, where again the battle is going to be between between the Telangana Rashtriya Samiti or the Maharashtra Rashtriya Samiti versus the BJP. And for the Congress, Karnataka is the only state which has shown so much of promise and remains, that's the reason why the party is still hopeful. If Congress were to lose Karnataka, sir, that would be a very big blow. BJP can still withstand a loss in Karnataka, but not Congress. Because I cannot see Congress again the next few assembly elections where things are going to be as hopeful as in Karnataka, whether it is Telangana, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, or Rajasthan.
Ashok wants to know, is Bombay retained so that BJP loses, the blame will be on Bombay and Modi can escape?
No, I think, sir, Bombay was the best bet for the situation, because he's compared to other leaders and their images. Bombay is seen as more a quintessential Karnataka leader who is considered decent, who is considered very gentlemanly, and who has not faced the kind of allegations which others have faced. So he was the best choice in that situation. That is why they chose him. But then he didn't have full authority or the full command of the to run the things way he should. Way things could have been run. He had to constantly take instructions from BJP High Command. That was one. Second, he had also had to constantly consult Yediyurappa. So yes, Bombay would come out as a person who tried to make the best of the situation in the event of BJP not forming the government. But suppose a scenario in which the BJP does, somehow manage to emerge single largest and get JDS to support it, then that will also be an interesting scenario, because the antipathy between Siddaramaiah and Kumarswamy is far much higher level than compared to Kumarswamy and any other BJP leader, including Yediyurappa. Though Kumarswamy had backed out of that agreement, we know that CM by rotation, when his 2.5 year got over, he refused to hand over the chair to Yediyurappa.
What is stopping the government from proceeding with the national census?
Well, sir, national census, they should have, if at all, it should have started sometime by end of last year or even earlier. I think a conscious decision has been taken that they will not hold census now. It will be only held after the Lok Sabha elections. They have already put on hold because the records had to be, whatever existing records had to be handed over by June, which did not happen. So that was sometime last year. So that itself a clear signal was that the attention now would be on the holding of the Lok Sabha election. So census is going to wait, and it will be taken up only after the Lok Sabha elections of 2024.
Thank you, KP. Warrior Elvin missionary advised Nehru on the tribal policy. Policy left ground for conversion. Meite's exclusion from ST is causing existential threat. Thank you for your input. I don't think there's any question as such, but we all know that for some reason Nehru was blind to whatever. In fact, even Indira Gandhi didn't really look much at Northeast. It's a very unfortunate fact that prime ministers don't look at all of India as a place to do work or development. Thank you so much, Shekhar ji. We'll be back again Wednesday at 10 a.m. IST for the next episode of Politics from Shekhar ji. Please encourage us. In fact, please encourage Shekhar ji. You need to do more liking of the program as soon as we air. You know the caliber, the quality of Shekhar ji. He speaks with experience. He has seen all these people grow in their political career. So you get a much deeper perspective about any politician that he talks about. So these are the things that you get whenever you attend a Shekhar Iyer program. Thank you once again, Shekhar ji. And viewers, please do follow us on Twitter. Shekhar Iyer 9 is his handle. Mine Sri Iyer 1 and P Gurus is the name of the channel. Thank you very much, sir. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir. Namaskar.